Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the great crystal chamber. The floor beneath her feet was smooth and cold. Above her head, the ceiling stretched up so high she could barely see it. All around her, thousands of alien beings sat in rows that went up and up like a giant bowl. She had never felt so small in her life. Elena was the voice of all humanity today. She wore her best blue uniform with the Earth symbol on her chest. Her hands shook a little, but she kept them steady at her sides. Behind her sat the other human representatives. They had traveled many light years to be here. This was the most important day in human history. The Galactic Council was old. Very old. It had been making rules for the galaxy for over 10,000 years. 847 different alien species belonged to it. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. Some were so strange that Elena could not understand. What she was looking at at the front of the chamber sat the High Judge. It was a being made of pure energy that floated inside a glass container. When it spoke, its voice came from speakers all around the room. The voice was cold and had no feeling in it. "The charges will now be read," the High Judge said. Elena felt her heart beat faster. She knew what was coming, but hearing it out loud would make it real. Another alien stood up. This one looked like a tall tree with many arms. It held a glowing tablet and began to read. "The species known as humanity stands accused of excessive aggression. They have expanded too quickly across star systems. They have built too many weapons. They have refused to follow galactic law." The tree alien kept reading. "In the past 200 years, humans have taken control of 47 star systems. They have built military bases on 60 planets. They have created weapons that can destroy entire worlds. Most serious of all, they refuse to give up control of their government to the Galactic Council." Elena wanted to speak. She wanted to tell them that humans only built weapons to protect themselves. She wanted to explain that they only expanded to find new homes for their growing population. But she had to wait. The council had its rules. The tree alien finished reading and sat down. Now it was time for the council to decide. One by one, different species stood up to speak against humanity. A creature that looked like a giant jellyfish floated up from its seat. "Humans are dangerous," it said in a voice like wind through caves. "They fight too much. They cannot be trusted with advanced technology." A being made of living metal stood next. "We have watched them for 300 years, it said with a voice like grinding gears. "They make war against each other. They pollute their own planet. They are not ready to join civilized space." More and more aliens spoke. They all said the same things. Humans were violent. Humans were destructive. Humans could not be controlled. Finally, it was Elena's turn to speak. She walked to the center of the chamber. Her voice was amplified so everyone could hear her. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began, "I stand here today not just for Earth, but for all human colonies across the galaxy. We are not the monsters you describe." She looked up at the thousands of alien faces watching her. "Yes, we have expanded quickly, but we expanded to give our children better lives. Yes, we have built weapons, but we built them because the galaxy is dangerous. We have never attacked another species without reason." Elena's voice grew stronger. "You say we are too aggressive. But when the hegemony pirates attacked the mining station at Vega, who stopped them? Humans did. When the plague struck the colony world of New Singapore, who sent medical aid? Humans did. When earthquakes destroyed 3 cities on Kepler Prime, who sent rescue ships? Humans did." She pointed to different sections of the chamber. "Many of your own species have fought wars. Many of you have conquered other worlds. The difference is that you did it slowly, over thousands of years. We have done it in only 2 centuries. You fear our speed, not our actions. The chamber was quiet. Elena could hear her heart beating. "You want us to give up our independence," she continued. "You want us to let the council make our laws and control our military. But we have seen what happens to species that do this. They become weak. They lose their identity. They become nothing more than servants to this council." Angry sounds came from the alien audience. Some of them stood up and made threatening gestures. But Elena kept talking. "We do not wish to be your enemies. We want to trade with you. We want to learn from you. We want to share the galaxy in peace. But we will not be your slaves." Elena finished speaking and walked back to her place. Now the council would vote. The High Judge's voice filled the chamber. "The Galactic Council will now decide the fate of humanity. All in favor of exile, activate your voting crystals." Elena watched as thousands of small lights appeared throughout the chamber. Red lights meant exile. Blue lights meant acceptance. Green lights meant a chance to try again. The lights appeared quickly. Red light after red light after red light. Elena counted them in her head, but she already knew the answer. There were too many red lights. When the voting was finished, the High Judge spoke again. "The vote is final. 846. Species vote for exile. One species votes for mercy." Elena wondered which species had voted for mercy. She would probably never know. "Humanity is hereby expelled from all council space," the High Judge continued. "You have 50 standard years to remove all human presence from the galaxy. All colonies must be abandoned. All military bases must be destroyed. All humans must return to the Sol system." The chamber erupted in alien voices. Some sounded happy. Others sounded sad, but Elena could barely hear them. The blood was rushing in her ears. Any human found outside the Sol system after the exile period will be considered an act of war against the Galactic Council. The High Judge said, "This decision is final and cannot be appealed." Elena stood up slowly. She had one last chance to speak. "May I say something?" she asked. The High Judge was quiet for a moment. Then it said, "You may speak briefly." Elena looked around the chamber one more time, at all the alien faces looking down at her, at all the species that had just condemned humanity to isolation. "You have made your choice," she said. Her voice was calm now. "You see our strength and call it aggression. You see our independence and call it defiance. You see our growth and call it conquest." She paused and took a deep breath. "But you are wrong about us. We are not conquerors. We are builders. We are not destroyers. We are protectors. You fear what we might become, but you do not understand what we already are." Elena straightened her uniform and lifted her chin. "You believe this exile will weaken us. You think isolation will teach us humility. You imagine we will come crawling back, begging for your acceptance." Her voice grew louder. "You are wrong. History will remember this day, but not as you imagine. You have not exiled a dangerous species. You have freed one. And when that freedom bears fruit, when our banner rises over worlds you cannot imagine, you will understand the mistake you have made today." Elena turned and walked toward the exit. The other human representatives followed her. Behind them, the alien voices grew louder and angrier, but Elena did not look back. She had said what needed to be said. Now it was time to go home and prepare for the long journey ahead. As the chamber doors closed behind them, Elena whispered to herself, 50 years. We can do a lot in 50 years. 30 years had passed since the exile began. Commander Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the transport ship homeward bound. Through the large window, she could see the planet Tau Ceti Prime growing smaller behind them. It had been humanity's most beautiful colony world. Now it was empty. Sarah was tired. She had been leading evacuation missions for 15 years. Every time was the same. Pack up everything that could be moved. Destroy everything that could not. Leave nothing behind that other species could use. Commander, said Lieutenant Park from his station, the demolition charges are ready. Sarah nodded. Do it. On the screen, she watched as the great city of New Prosperity disappeared in flashes of light. The spaceport where her own daughter had taken her first steps. The university where she had met her husband. The hospital where her son was born. All gone in seconds. That's the last of them, said Park quietly. Sarah felt tears in her eyes, but she wiped them away. There was no time for crying. They still had a long journey back to Earth. Behind them, 17 other transport ships carried the last 1,000,000 people from the Tau Ceti system. Each ship was packed full. People slept in hallways. Families shared rooms meant for one person. But nobody complained. They knew they were lucky to have a ride home. Earth was not ready for all these people. Neither was Luna, Mars, or the other inner colonies. 47 star systems worth of people had to fit into one small solar system. It was like trying to pour an ocean into a cup. Sarah had seen the reports. Earth now had 20 billion people. The cities reached up into the clouds. The oceans were covered with floating towns. Even the moon was crowded with domed cities that stretched across its gray surface. Food was a problem. Water was a problem. Space was a problem. Everything was a problem. But humans were good at solving problems. Commander, said Lieutenant Park, we're getting a message from home. Sarah walked over to the communication station, put it on the main screen. The face that appeared belonged to Admiral Martinez, head of Evacuation Command. He looked older than Sarah remembered. His hair was completely gray now, and there were deep lines around his eyes. Sarah, he said, good work on Tau Ceti. That was the last of the major colonies in Sector 7. Thank you, sir, Sarah replied. How many more evacuations do we have? Only 12 small outposts left, Martinez said. We should be done with evacuations in 2 years. Then we can start Phase 2. Sarah knew about Phase 2. Everyone in the military did. But they were not supposed to talk about it on open channels. Understood, sir, she said. Martinez smiled. For the first time in the conversation. Sarah, I want you to know that your service has been exceptional. When you get home, report to the Pluto station for your next assignment. The message ended. Sarah stared at the blank screen. Pluto station was not really at Pluto. It was much farther out, hidden in the dark between the stars. Everyone called it Pluto station, because that was easier than saying Secret Military Base Number 1. Lieutenant Park looked confused. Commander, why would they send you to Pluto station? That place doesn't even exist. Sarah smiled. Exactly. 3 weeks later, Sarah arrived at the place that didn't exist. It was bigger than she had imagined. Much bigger. The station looked like a small moon made of metal and glass. Around it, hundreds of ships moved back and forth like busy insects. Some of the ships were so large that Sarah could not see their ends. Others were strange shapes she had never seen before. Inside the station, Sarah met Dr. Marcus Webb. He was the head scientist of something called the Black Site Research Division. He was a small man with wild hair and excited eyes. Commander. Chun, he said, shaking her hand very hard. Perfect timing. We just finished the first prototype. Prototype of what? Sarah asked. Dr. Webb's eyes lit up. Follow me. He led her through corridors filled with busy people. Scientists, engineers, and technicians worked at stations that hummed with power. The air smelled like ozone and hot metal. They took a lift, down many levels, then walked through several security checkpoints. Finally, they reached a huge chamber with a window looking out into space. But this was not normal space. Instead of stars, Sarah saw swirling colors and shapes that hurt her eyes to look at. What is that? She asked. Quantum fold space, Dr. Webb said proudly. We learned how to make holes in reality itself. Through there, distance doesn't work. The same way, a journey that would take years in normal space takes days through the fold. Sarah stared at the impossible view. This is how we're going to escape. Escape is the wrong word, Dr. Webb said. We're not running away. We're getting ready. He led her to another window. This one showed the construction bays. Sarah gasped. The ships being built here were enormous. Each one was the size of a city. She could see parks and buildings inside their transparent sections. Generation ships, Dr. Webb explained. Each one can carry 1 million people. We're building 100 of them. Where are they going? Sarah asked. Dr. Webb smiled. Places the Galactic Council has never been. The far spiral arms, the spaces between galaxies. Places where we can grow strong without anyone watching us. Sarah felt a chill run down her back. You're planning something. Not me, Dr. Webb said. Humanity. We've been planning for 30 years. The Council thinks exile is punishment. They don't understand that they've given us the greatest gift possible. What gift? Freedom. Dr. Webb led her to a computer terminal. He typed in some commands, and the screen filled with star charts. But these were not charts of known space. These showed regions that no Council ship had ever visited. While we've been retreating from Council space, our scout ships have been exploring the unknown regions, he said. We've found something incredible out there. The screen changed to show photographs. Ancient ruins on dead worlds. Massive structures floating in empty space. Technology that looked nothing like anything the Council species used. Who built these? Sarah asked. We call them the architects, Dr. Webb said. They were here millions of years before the Council existed. Their technology is far beyond anything we've ever seen. And the best part is, it still works. Sarah looked at more photographs. Cities that floated in the air. Machines that could change matter from one thing to another. Computers that seemed to think for themselves. Have you made contact with them? Dr. Webb shook his head. They're gone, but they left their tools behind, and we're learning how to use them. He pulled up another display. This one showed a map of human space during the evacuation. Red dots marked abandoned colonies. But there were also blue dots in places Sarah didn't recognize. Secret colonies? She asked. Mining stations, Dr. Webb corrected. Resource extraction facilities, research outposts, all hidden in the deep dark where Council scouts never go. For 30 years, we've been building a second civilization out there. Sarah felt her heart racing. The Council doesn't know. The Council thinks we're beaten, Dr. Webb said. They think we're crawling back to Earth with our tails between our legs. They have no idea what we're really doing. He switched to another display. This one showed production numbers. Ships built, weapons manufactured, people trained. Technology developed. The numbers were staggering. My God, Sarah whispered, you're not preparing to hide. You're preparing to fight. Dr. Webb's smile disappeared. We're preparing to survive. The galaxy is a dangerous place, Commander. The Council thinks their rules keep everyone safe. But their rules only work if everyone follows them. And there are things out there that don't follow any rules at all. What do you mean? Dr. Webb was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, our deep space probes have detected something coming from outside the galaxy. Something big, something that destroys everything in its path. Sarah felt cold. How long do we have? Unknown. Maybe 50. Years, maybe 100, maybe less. And you think humanity can stop it? Dr. Webb looked out at the construction bays where the giant ships were being built. I think humanity might be the only species that can. The Council races are too comfortable, too safe. They've forgotten how to fight for their lives. But we haven't. No, Dr. Webb said, we haven't. 30 years of exile has taught us to be strong, to be independent, to never give up. Sarah looked at all the displays around her. Ships, weapons, technology, people. The hidden strength of humanity. Growing in the dark. When do the generation ships launch? Next year, Dr. Webb said. 100 ships carrying 100 million volunteers. They'll establish new colonies in the unexplored regions. By the time the Council realizes what we've done, we'll be too far away and too strong to stop. Sarah nodded slowly. And what's my job in all this? Dr. Webb handed her a datapad. You're going to command one of those ships. Your mission is to find a suitable world and establish Colony Prime. From there, you'll coordinate the expansion into the unknown regions. Sarah looked at the datapad. On the screen was information about her ship, the U's Indomitable, 2 kilometers long, armed with weapons that could crack planets, carrying 1 million people and everything they needed to build a new civilization. Why? Me? She asked. Because you've spent 30 years watching humanity retreat, Dr. Webb said. Now it's time to watch us advance. Sarah looked out the window at the impossible space beyond. Somewhere out there was humanity's future. A future the Galactic Council could never have imagined. When do we leave? Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the UE's Indomitable and watched the stars change. They were no longer the familiar stars of Council space. These were new stars, strange stars. Stars that no human had ever seen before. Had been too. Years since the generation fleet left Sol System. 100 massive ships carrying 30 million people into the unknown. Maria commanded the lead ship, but she was not the only captain. Each ship had its own mission, its own destination, its own piece of humanity's future. The bridge around Maria was busy with activity. Officers monitored instruments, tracked navigation data, and watched for any signs of danger. The Indomitable was more than just a ship. It was a city, a factory, a fortress, and a home all in one. Captain, said Commander Torres from the navigation station, we're approaching the target system. Maria walked over to look at the display. The system had 7 planets orbiting a yellow star very much like Earth's sun. Long-range scans showed that the 4th planet had water, atmosphere, and continents. It looked perfect for human life, but Maria had learned not to trust first impressions. Take us in slowly, she ordered, full sensor sweeps. I want to know everything about this system before we get close. As they approached, the sensors began picking up strange readings. There were structures on several of the planets. Large structures, very old structures. Captain, said Lieutenant Kim from the science station, I'm reading artificial constructions on planets 4, 5, and 6. The buildings appear to be millions of years old. Maria felt her heart beat faster. Dr. Webb had told her they might find ruins of the architects, but finding them so quickly was unexpected. Any signs of life? She asked. Negative. The structures appear to be completely abandoned. Maria made her decision. Bring us into orbit around Planet 4. Launch probe teams to the other planets. I want to know what we're dealing with before we wake up the colonists. The Indomitable settled into a stable orbit. Through the bridge windows, Maria could see the planet below. It was beautiful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown continents. It looked so much like Earth that it made her homesick, but the structures on the surface are clearly not human. They were made of a crystal material that seemed to glow with its own light. The biggest structure was a pyramid that stretched 20 kilometers into the sky. Around it, smaller buildings formed perfect geometric patterns that could be seen from orbit. Captain, said Commander Torres, the probe teams are reporting something unusual. What kind of unusual? The structures are not empty. They contain active technology. Maria felt a chill. Active how? The crystal material is generating power. Low level, but definitely artificial. And there are energy patterns moving through the buildings, like information flowing through a computer network. Maria stared at the planet below. The architects had been gone for millions of years. Their technology should be dead. But it wasn't. Prepare a landing team, she ordered. Full exploration gear, and bring heavy weapons just in case. 2 hours. Later, Maria stood on the surface of the planet that would someday be called New Genesis. The air was breathable, the gravity was comfortable, and the temperature was warm. It really was perfect for human life. But the crystal pyramid in front of her was clearly not built by humans. Dr. Elena Martinez, the fleet's chief scientist, ran her scanner over the pyramid's surface. The material is unlike anything in our databases, she reported. It seems to be a form of programmable matter. It can change its structure at the molecular level. Programmable by whom? Maria asked. That's the question, isn't it? The landing team approached the pyramid's entrance. It was a simple archway with no door. As they got closer, symbols began appearing in the crystal walls. The symbols glowed softly and seemed to move like living things. Are those words? Asked Sergeant Johnson. The team's security chief. Dr. Martinez studied her scanner readouts. There's some kind of information system, but the language is completely unknown. Maria stepped closer to the archway. As she did, the symbols changed. They became simpler, more geometric. And somehow, Maria understood their meaning. Welcome, she whispered. The others looked at her in surprise. Captain, said Dr. Martinez. The symbols just said welcome, Maria explained. I don't know how I understood them, but I did. She stepped through the archway. The others followed carefully behind her. Inside the pyramid was a vast chamber filled with soft light. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all made of the same crystal material. But now Maria could see that it was not just crystal. It was technology. Living technology that responded to their presence. In the center of the chamber stood a pillar of light. As they approached it, images began forming in the air around them. Images of space, of stars, of worlds, and of the beings who had built this place. The architects looked nothing like humans. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to be made of living metal. But their eyes were familiar. They showed intelligence, curiosity, and sadness. The images showed the story of this place. Millions of years ago, the architects had built a great civilization. They had explored the galaxy, built cities on thousands of worlds, and created technology that could do impossible things. But something had driven them away. The images showed darkness coming from outside the galaxy, a force that consumed everything. In its path, the architects had fought against it, but they were losing. So they had built these crystal structures and filled them with their knowledge. Then they had fled to another galaxy, hoping that someday other intelligent beings would find their legacy and use it to protect the galaxy they had abandoned. My God, whispered Dr. Martinez. They left all this for us. More images appeared. These showed how to use the architect technology, how to build with programmable matter, how to travel through folded space, how to create weapons that could defend against the darkness from outside. And how to awaken the great network that connected all the architect ruins across the galaxy. Captain, said Sergeant Johnson nervously, we're not alone down here. Maria turned to see what he was looking at. At the far end of the chamber, several figures had emerged from alcoves in the walls. They were not architects. They were different. Alien species, but none that Maria recognized from the Galactic Council. The lead figure was tall and graceful, with blue skin and silver hair. It approached them slowly, its hands held out to show it carried no weapons. Please do not be afraid, it said in perfect English. We have been waiting for you. Maria kept her hand near her weapon, but did not draw it. Who are you? I am Kalar of the Cathari, the alien replied. We are, like you, exiles from the Galactic Council. We have been living among these ruins for 300 years. Maria felt surprise and hope at the same time. There are others? Kalar nodded. Many others. The proud Vorth, who were exiled, for creating artificial minds. The peaceful Nomari, who were cast out for refusing to share their medical knowledge. The fierce Thrakari, who were banished for defending their independence too strongly. How many species? Asked Dr. Martinez. 17 so far, Kalar replied. All of us found guilty of the same crime as humanity. We were too different, too. Independent, too strong for the Council to control. Maria looked around the crystal chamber. And you've been studying this technology? For centuries, Kalar confirmed. But we could not fully activate it. The architect's systems require something we do not have. What? Kalar looked directly into Maria's eyes. They require hope. They require the belief that the galaxy can be saved. They require the kind of stubborn refusal to give up that seems to be unique to humanity. Maria felt a strange tingling in the air around them. The crystal walls were glowing brighter. The pillar of light in the center was pulsing with new energy. It's responding to us, Dr. Martinez said, watching her scanner in amazement. The entire structure is coming online. Kalar smiled. The architects built their technology to recognize the qualities they valued most. Courage, determination, and the willingness to fight for others, even when victory seems impossible. These are human traits. They're not just human traits, Maria said. You've all been fighting for centuries. Yes, Kalar agreed, but we were fighting alone, species by species. Humanity is the first to arrive with the power to unite us all. The images in the air changed again. Now they showed the galaxy as it was today. The Galactic Council's space was highlighted in blue. But there were also red areas showing the exile regions where the forgotten species had built new homes. And there were green areas showing something else entirely. Places where the architect network was awakening. Places where new technology was being born. Captain, said Commander Torres through her communicator, we're getting reports from the other probe teams. Every planet in this system has architect ruins, and they're all coming online at the same time. Maria looked at Kalar. What happens now? Now we teach each other, Kalar replied. You teach us about human technology and human determination. We teach you about survival in exile and the secrets we have learned from the architects. And together? Kalar's smile grew wider. Together we build something the galaxy has never seen. A confederation of the exiled. A union of the rejected. A force that can stand against any darkness, whether it comes from the Galactic Council or from beyond the stars themselves. The exile period was over. 50 years had passed since the Galactic Council had banished humanity from civilized space. Council Scout Commander Vex approached the Sol system with mixed feelings. Part of him hoped to find humans ready to beg for forgiveness. Another part feared they might find something else entirely. Vex was a Zalani, one of the original founding species of the Council. His people had blue-gray skin and large eyes that could see across many different types of light. Right now, those eyes were focused on the scanner displays showing Earth's solar system. Commander, said his sensor operator, a young hegemony named Cress. I'm not reading any ships in the system. Vex felt confused. None at all? None, sir. The system appears to be completely empty of spacecraft. That was impossible. Even if humanity had given up space travel entirely, there should still be defense satellites, communication relays, or cargo haulers moving between the planets. Take us closer to Earth, Vex ordered. Full sensor sweeps. As their scout ship, Approach the third planet, the readings became even more strange. Earth looked perfect. The cities were still there, gleaming and beautiful. The lights were on. The atmosphere was clean. Everything appeared normal, except for one thing. There were no humans. "Commander," said Kress, his voice shaking slightly, "I'm scanning the major population centers. New York, London, Tokyo, New Geneva. They're all intact, but ... But what? There's nobody there. No life signs at all. It's like everyone just disappeared." Dex stared at the image of Earth on his main screen. This was not what the Council had expected. They had prepared for humanity to be broken and defeated. They had planned to offer limited readmission to Council space in exchange for complete surrender. They had not prepared for humanity to simply vanish. "Check the other planets," Vex ordered. Mars, Luna, the orbital stations. The results were the same everywhere. Perfect cities with no people. Working machines with no operators. Gardens with no gardeners. "Sir," said Lieutenant Vex from the communication station, "I'm picking up automated signals from the planetary surface. It appears the infrastructure is being maintained by artificial systems. Any messages for us?" "Just one, sir. It's repeating on all frequencies." Vex gestured for her to play it. The voice that came through the speakers was female, human, and somehow familiar. "To any representatives of the Galactic Council who may be listening, this is Ambassador Elena Vasquez. If you are hearing this message, it means the 50-year exile period has ended, and you have come to check on humanity's compliance." Vex remembered that name. Elena Vasquez had been the human representative at the trial 50 years ago. She had been young then. She would be very old now, if she was still alive. "As you can see," the message continued, "humanity has complied with the terms of exile. No human presence remains in Council space. Our colonies have been abandoned. Our bases have been destroyed. We have withdrawn completely from the galactic community as ordered." Vex felt a chill run through his body. There was something in the human's voice that he did not like. It was too calm, too controlled. However, Alana's voice continued, "The Council should not interpret our absence as surrender. We have not been idle during our exile. We have been learning. We have been growing. We have been preparing." A message paused. When it resumed, Elena's voice had changed. It was harder now, more dangerous. "You wish to see what humanity would become without the Council's guidance. Soon you'll have your answer. We thank you for giving us the freedom to become what we were always meant to be." The message ended. The bridge of Vex's ship was completely quiet. "Commander," said Kress finally, "what does that mean?" Vex did not answer immediately. He was thinking about reports that had been coming in from the rim territories. Strange energy readings. Unexplained disappearances. Entire systems going dark without explanation. "Take us back to Council space," he ordered. "Maximum speed." "Sir, don't we need to complete the survey?" "The survey is complete," Vex said grimly. "We need to report this immediately." 3 days. Later, Vex stood before the emergency council session. The great crystal chamber was not as full as it had been 50 years ago. Several species had withdrawn from active participation. Others had been dealing with internal problems. The high judge's energy form flickered with agitation as Vex finished his report. "You are certain the Sol system is empty?" the high judge asked. "Completely certain, Your Honor. No ships, no space stations, no signs of human activity anywhere in the system." A hegemony counselor stood up. "Then the exile was successful. The humans have been contained." "I do not think so," Vex replied. "I believe they have relocated somewhere else." "Where?" demanded a crystalline representative. "Our long-range sensors monitor all inhabited systems. There are no new human colonies anywhere in known space. Vex hesitated. What he was about to say would sound crazy, but the evidence was clear. I believe they have moved beyond the edge of our sensor network into the unexplored regions. The chamber erupted in alien voices. Some sounded amused. Others sounded angry. Many sounded disbelieving. Impossible, said the Zalani Prime Counselor. The Rim territories are uninhabitable. No species has ever successfully colonized beyond the galactic edge. With respect, Counselor, Vex said, no species has ever tried as hard as humanity. The High Judge called for silence. Scout Commander Vex, do you have evidence for this theory? Vex activated his data display. For the past 10 years, we have received scattered reports from Rim territory outposts. Ships appearing and disappearing. Energy readings that match. No known technology. Communication disruptions that suggest advanced jamming systems. He switched to a star map showing the outer edge of Council space. Red dots marked the locations of strange incidents. At first, we dismissed these as sensor errors or natural phenomena, but the pattern is too consistent to be random. A fourth counselor spoke up. Even if humans have established colonies in the Rim territories, they pose no threat to Council. Space. The distances involved make travel between regions nearly impossible. Vex felt his skin flush with worry. That may no longer be true, Counselor. He switched to a new display showing energy readings from the past 5 years. These readings suggest the development of transportation technology far beyond anything in our databases. If humanity has learned to travel through folded space or dimensional shortcuts, the distances become irrelevant. The chamber grew quiet. Folded space travel was theoretical. No species had ever achieved it. There is more, Vex continued. 3 months ago, the mining station at Rigel 7 went silent. When we sent a rescue ship, they found the station intact, but completely abandoned, just like Earth. He paused to let that sink in. 2 months ago, the same thing happened at the research facility on Kepler Station. Last month, it was the military outpost at Vega Prime. Each time, no signs of struggle. No damage to the facilities. The people were simply gone. Abductions? Suggested a hegemony counselor. Or recruitment, Vex replied quietly. The implications of that word sent a wave of fear through the chamber. If humanity was actively recruiting from Council space, it meant they were building something. Something big. The High Judge's energy. Form pulsed rapidly. What is your assessment of the threat level, Scout Commander? Vex looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. He thought about Elena Vasquez's message. He thought about the empty cities of Earth. He thought about the pattern of disappearances spreading through Council space. Your Honor, I believe humanity is no longer the species we exiled 50 years ago. Isolation has changed them. It has made them stronger, more advanced, and more dangerous than we ever imagined. Recommendations? X took a deep breath. We should attempt to make contact, find out what they want, try to negotiate before the situation gets worse. And if negotiation fails? X was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I believe we should prepare for the possibility that the hunters have become the hunted. The chamber fell completely silent. No one wanted to think about what that might mean. But in the weeks that followed, the disappearances accelerated. Entire colonies went dark. Military fleets vanished without a trace. Communication networks failed across multiple sectors. And always, when Council ships arrived to investigate, they found the same thing. Empty cities, abandoned bases. No signs of violence or struggle. Just the eerie silence of places where people had once lived and worked. It was as if humanity had reached out from their exile and was quietly, methodically, recruiting the galaxy's best and brightest. Scientists, engineers, military officers, and anyone else who might be useful for some great project. The Council tried to respond. They increased patrols. They established new security protocols. They demanded that all member species report any contact with unknown vessels. But it was like trying to catch smoke with their bare hands. The disappearances continued. The energy readings grew stronger. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity's shadow grew longer and longer. 6 months after Thex's report, the High Judge received a message that changed everything. It was not from humanity directly. It was from one of the missing colonies. The transmission was brief and filled with static, but the words were clear enough. The invasion began on a Tuesday. Admiral Elena Vasquez, now 93 years old but kept strong by advanced medical technology, stood on the bridge of the U.E.'s Long Shadow. Around her, the command crew monitored thousands of data streams from across the galaxy. She had been waiting for this day for 20 years. The enemy was called the Scourge. They came from the darkness between galaxies, just as the architect ruins had warned. They were not alive in any way that organic beings understood. Life. They were pure consumption, pure destruction. They turned everything they touched into more of themselves. "Admiral," said Captain Zhang from the tactical station, "the Scourge fleets have entered Council space at 17 different points. First, contact occurred 37 minutes ago." Elena watched the displays showing the galaxy-wide situation. Red dots marked Scourge fleets. Blue dots marked Council defense forces. The red dots were advancing. The blue dots were disappearing. "Casualties?" Elena asked. "The Hegemony Third Fleet is gone. Complete destruction." The crystalline defense network lasted 14 minutes before being overrun. The Zelane are evacuating their home system. Elena felt no satisfaction at these reports. She had once hated the Council for their arrogance and fear, but she had never wanted to see them destroyed. What about our people in Council space? "The recruitment networks are activating emergency protocols," reported Commander Park. "Our embedded agents are guiding evacuations to safe zones. Estimated rescue rate is 63%. Elena nodded. For 30 years, the new Terran Federation had been quietly placing agents throughout Council space. Scientists, engineers, military officers, and others who had grown dissatisfied with Council rule. They had volunteered to help when the time came. That time was now. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Torres from Communications, "we're receiving the Council's distress signal." Elena had been expecting this. "Put it through." The face that appeared on the main screen belonged to the High Judge. The energy being that had once seemed so powerful now flickered weakly with fear and desperation. To any human representatives who may be monitoring this frequency, the High Judge began. "The Galactic Council formally requests immediate assistance in repelling the extragalactic invasion force." Elena almost smiled. After 50 years of exile, the Council was finally asking for humanity's help. "We acknowledge that our previous treatment of humanity may have been inappropriate," the High Judge continued. "We are prepared to discuss full readmission to Council space and compensation for past grievances." The message ended. Elena looked around the bridge at her officers. Many of them were not human. The Federation had grown to include 47 different species, all united by their shared experience of Council rejection. "Comments?" Elena asked. Captain Zhang spoke first. "The Council defense fleets will be completely destroyed within 72 hours. Without intervention, the Scourge will consume the entire galactic core within 6 months. Recommendations?" "We have 2 choices," said Commander Park. "We can let the Council fall and face the Scourge alone, or we can reveal ourselves and fight alongside them." Elena thought about this choice. She had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. The Federation fleets were hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting for her orders. Their technology was decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. They could make the difference between victory and total annihilation. But Elena remembered the trial 50 years ago. She remembered the contempt in the alien voices as they voted for humanity's exile. She remembered the long years of retreat and isolation. Part of her wanted to let the Council burn. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Torres quietly, "we're receiving another transmission. This one is from the evacuation zones." Elena gestured for her to play it. The voice that came through belonged to Director Sarah Kim, one of the humans who had stayed behind to coordinate the rescue operations. "Elena, if you're listening to this, you need to know what's happening down here. The Council species are not our enemies anymore. They're just people trying to survive. I've seen hegemony parents carrying their children to safety. I've seen crystalline elders sharing their last energy reserves with strangers. I've seen Zilani soldiers dying to protect civilian transports." Sarah's voice grew stronger. "These are not the same beings who exiled us 50 years ago. War has a way of showing what people are really made of. And what I'm seeing is courage, sacrifice, and hope. They deserve a chance to live." The message ended. Elena looked out the bridge windows at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Scourge fleets were consuming entire solar systems. And somewhere else, the children of the species that had once rejected humanity were waiting for someone to save them. "All stations," Elena said finally, "signal the fleet. Execute Operation Long Shadow." Captain Zhang activated the tactical display. It showed the positions of Federation ships throughout the galaxy. There were thousands of them, hidden in dimensional fold space where Council sensors could not detect them. "Phase 1 is underway," Zhang reported. "All vessels are moving to intercept positions." Elena watched as the Federation fleets began to reveal themselves. Ships that dwarfed anything in Council space dropped out of fold space around Scourge formations. The aliens had never seen technology like this before. The Federation vessels used weapons that fired through folded space, striking targets from impossible angles. They deployed nanotechnology swarms that could convert enemy ships into allied ones. They coordinated their attacks through the Nexus network, a communication system that connected human minds across any distance. But Elena's greatest surprise was still to come. "Admiral," said Commander Park, "we're receiving a response to our intervention. It's from the High Judge." Elena gestured for the message to be played. The High Judge's energy form was brighter now, filled with hope instead of despair. "To the forces of the new Terran Federation," the High Judge said, "your assistance in this crisis will not be forgotten. We formally request permission to coordinate our defense efforts with your military commanders." Elena smiled. It was the first time in 50 years that the Council had asked humanity for anything instead of demanding it. "Open a channel," she ordered. When the connection was established, Elena could see the High Judge clearly. The ancient being looked tired but determined. "Your Honor," Elena said, "I am Admiral Elena Vasquez of the New Terran Federation. You may remember me from the trial 50 years ago." The High Judge's form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. "I remember, Admiral. I also remember the words you spoke that day. You said history would remember our decision, but not as we imagined. You were correct." Elena nodded. "The past is the past, Your Honor. Right now, we have a galaxy to save. What do you require from us?" "Complete tactical coordination, shared intelligence, and trust." The High Judge was silent for a moment. "Admiral, 50 years ago, we exiled humanity because we feared what you might become. Now I understand that what we feared was exactly what the galaxy needed. Over the next 48 hours, the combined fleets of the Federation and the Council fought the largest space battle in galactic history. The fighting took place across 17 star systems simultaneously. The Scourge had numbers, But the Federation had technology, and the Council had knowledge of local space. Elena coordinated the battle from the Bridge of the Long Shadow. Around her, the command crew worked with Council officers who had been transported. Aboard, species that had been enemies were now working together to survive. "Admiral," reported Captain Zhang, "the Scourge is concentrating their remaining forces for a final assault on Earth." Eleni felt her heart skip a beat. Earth, the human homeworld, the place where this had all begun. How many ships? Over 10,000. They're planning to destroy Earth as a symbolic victory. Elena looked at the tactical display. The Scourge fleet was massive, but she had been preparing for this possibility. "Signal all Federation vessels," she ordered. "Converge on Sol System. It's time to show them what Earth has become." As the Federation fleet moved toward Earth, Elena thought about the secret that even her own officers did not know. During the 50 years of exile, Earth had not been abandoned. It had been transformed. The Scourge fleet arrived at Sol System expecting to find a helpless world. Instead, they found something impossible. Earth's continents had been completely reorganized. The surface was covered with geometric patterns that could be seen from space, and those patterns were not decorative. They were the largest weapon array ever constructed. "This is Admiral Vasquez to all Scourge vessels," Elena broadcast on all frequencies. "You have come to destroy our homeworld. But you have made a mistake. Earth is not just our home. It is our fortress. It is our weapon. And it is your grave." The surface of Earth began to glow. Energy that had been building for 50 years was finally released. The planet itself had become a massive cannon capable of firing across interstellar distances. The Scourge fleet tried to retreat, but it was too late. The energy beam that erupted from Earth could be seen from neighboring star systems. When it faded, nothing remained of the invasion force except empty space. Elena slumped in her command chair. It was over. The Scourge had been defeated. The galaxy was safe. "Admiral," said Lieutenant Torres, "we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The remaining Scourge forces are retreating back.